Hey everyone, thank you for stopping by my channel today. For those of you that are new here, my name is Kim and I am a retired part-time teacher working and living in Japan. We have been comparing city life versus country life living in Japan. First segment, we talked about the cost of living. In our second segment, we talked about accessibility and transportation. Then we talked about shopping and eating. Next, we talked about events and activities. And our previous segment, we focused on people, friends, and work opportunities. And this is my scorecard so far. All right, and now we're going to get to the last area, which I think is probably the most difficult for me to say which is better. And that's which area is better for privacy or if you are battling loneliness. And I know those are kind of like on opposite ends of the spectrum, but let's talk about privacy and loneliness. I guess being alone. Okay, I'm back. I just took a dinner break, so excuse me if the camera angle changed or if the lighting changed. I think I'll go first in the countryside and then we'll go to the city. And then I'll tell you my opinion about which one I think is better. Let's talk about the countryside. So for those of you that are in the countryside, and especially those of you that are in the really remote and isolated areas, you are going to stand out no matter what you do, just based on your appearance alone. I'm Japanese American, so I can sort of fit in, and I think other Asian Americans can kind of blend in, but even then, you'll notice that you still stand out. Despite the fact that I am 100% of Japanese ancestry, people tell me that the way I walk, obviously the way I talk, the way I dress, the way I do my makeup, the way I do my hair, all of that is different. So you're not going to fit in appearance-wise, and you're going to learn very quickly what it's like to be looked at differently, to be maybe stared at, to be maybe followed. Not in a bad way. I'm not talking stalking followers, but there might be some people in the neighborhood that are curious to see where you live. They're curious. You're like the I don't know, the rainbow colored fish, where all of a sudden you come into the pond and you're a little bit different. People are going to know who you are, especially if you work at the neighborhood school. People are going to know you by maybe how you decorate or how you have the front of your house. Do you have a nameplate on that has your name by your mailbox? Do you have an umbrella stand? Do you have a bicycle? All those kind of things you are going to be recognized. When you go to any kind of medical facility, like your neighborhood doctor or pharmacy or ears, nose, and throat clinic, you're going to stand out and people are going to know who you are. Once you start working and you have your students or coworkers, you're going to see them at the supermarket or when you're putting out your laundry. It's like being a celebrity, but not being a celebrity, if you know what I mean. It can be good and bad, but if you're not used to it, you kind of have to learn to adjust to this. Your reputation and your lifestyle is going to be kind of spotlighted. So if you are going to the neighborhood bar all the time, people are going to remember that you were there. And you won't even know who these people are. You'll find that you'll go to work and people will say, oh, we saw you at such and such with so-and-so. And you're like, my goodness, nobody came up to me and said anything. But it's because more people know you than you know them. So if you have anything that is remotely questionable, or if you're doing anything that you don't want people to know about. You have to really learn how to be very discreet. And I'm not saying, wear sunglasses everywhere, hide your head in a hoodie, or any of that kind of things. But I think you just have to know that people recognize you. So you might want to smile or say your greetings, even if you have no idea who these people are sometimes. It's just all on how comfortable you feel. But yeah, it does kind of suck, but it has its good points and bad points. If you're wondering, Kim, what's a good point about people recognizing you when you don't want to be recognized? Well, okay, just a minute. I have a baby trying to paw me. All right, good boy. If there's an emergency, or if there's anything in the neighborhood that's maybe something you need to be alerted for example, a typhoon warning, a snow warning, a heavy snow warning, a rainstorm, an earthquake, all of those kinds of things, people are going to make sure that they contact you. So that's a good thing. You know that if there's an emergency or something dangerous, people are going to make sure you're okay, especially like deep in the countryside. They're not going to totally ignore you. That being said, if you kind of don't make the connection, or you just totally isolate yourself from everybody, they're not going to know, or they're not going to know how to reach you or let you know that something is happening. It really, as private as a person as I am, I think it really helps to know your nearest neighbor, your nearest police box, all the things that you probably wouldn't do back in your home country. Maybe you live in a big apartment complex and you have no idea who else lives there. In the countryside, everybody does kind of know everyone. So if you do make that connection, it's like you are a part of their community. And I think they wouldn't put you in an area without other people knowing that you are an important person that has come here to work, especially if you're a teacher. I can't vouch for other professions, but if you're a teacher, you are held in high respect. You are possibly the teacher of their children, and they're not going to want or let anything happen to you. So be assured that way, even though it may seem like people are meddling into your business, or they're always looking at things, or they're making you feel uncomfortable because when you hang up your laundry, people are looking to see what you're hanging up, all that kind of stuff. You don't have to worry. They do have good intentions, and unless you really do feel like somebody is overstepping their boundaries, or maybe being a little bit too intrusive in your private life, go ahead and report that to your school, or even you can go to your neighborhood police box and let them know, because don't bear it all by yourself. Even though you are isolated, you have people that are there to help you, so take advantage of that. Another thing is, okay, for someone like me that is Asian American and Japanese American, I've been different all my life growing up in Los Angeles. But I had other Japanese Americans, other Asian Americans, other Asian Canadians, whatever, other minorities in my hometown and in my residential area growing up. So I never felt like I didn't feel in the majority and I didn't feel in the minority. And if I had any, questions, or if I wanted to eat a certain food and I needed help in making it or getting the ingredients, I always had people that I could talk to that could relate to me. But if you're someone that is coming to Japan for the first time and you are the only non-Japanese person in your neighborhood, there'll be times when you may want to talk about how you're feeling or what you're going through. And it's difficult when there's no one that's nearby that you can talk to. when I came on JET in 1988, we had 9 JET participants in total in our whole prefecture. And I believe 5 of us were in Tottori City. The person, or the ALT, assistant language teacher, that had been there the previous year, lived in the unit, not next door to me, but next to the next store to me. And the other foreigners were kind of placed in different areas, but as I said, we didn't have any social media, we didn't have any cell phones or beepers or nothing. So I had no idea where these other foreigners that I had gotten to know so well at orientation were. And none of us had our phone lines yet, so we didn't even know how to get in touch with each other to pass on our contact information. So I think I went the first couple of months without any contact until there was a festival. It might have even been Shanshan Matsuri, which is the festival that they have in Tottori in August. And I didn't know how to get in touch with anyone to go with them, so I went by myself. I didn't even know where the festival was. I just followed people to see where people were walking and wound up at the festival. But yeah, you do want to reach out, or hopefully nowadays people do reach out to you. You have to sort of expand your friendship criteria, especially if you're one of those types of people that need other people. I personally was fine being by myself, and yeah, it wasn't a big thing for me to seek out other people when I first got to Tottori. I just wanted to try and adjust to my whole surroundings by myself. So for me, being isolated in this rural prefecture wasn't that bad at first because I just kept saying, this is what I signed up for. This is, I got the most rural part of Japan, and I've got to make do for the next year. And remember, mind you, when I came, that was my mindset. I was only staying a year. I only had planned to stay a year. Anytime I was interviewed by the media, I would always say, nope, just 1 year. There sometimes is a pressure to make Japanese friends. It's sort of an unspoken pressure that the foreign community seems to give on other foreigners here in Japan. I say it doesn't matter. Friends are friends. It doesn't matter what nationality they are. I think the benefit of making friends with the locals in your community, the Japanese teachers at your school, is it's sort of a give and take relationship, because you're giving them your opinions, your help with English, and they in turn can do the same for you in Japanese. They can help you ease into the culture. They can tell you things about the culture that maybe you can't read in books or watch, on YouTube online. That's another thing. Nowadays, you guys have the resource of YouTube, and there are so many fabulous videos out there. I'm not from me, but I mean other people that have had similar experiences during the same time you did. They probably have a lot more advice that they can give you in regards to this day and age. Most of my advice comes from being here for 37 years and what I've learned over the years. And I think it is a great tool that you can use to get information, to get support, to even meet people. So speaking of meeting people and making friends, I don't think I had a great school assignment. In fact, I think I had the best school assignment because I had only 3 Japanese English teachers that I worked with, and they were all older than I. And mind you, I came on jet when I was 29 years old, as opposed to a lot of people that came when they were 22 or a lot younger. The other jets that I came with in my particular city, they were all older than me, except for I think 2 of them. So, yeah, so I was 29, and maybe that's why adjusting to the new surrounding wasn't so bad. But I was assigned to a technical high school. My students were all boys, except for I think there were 4 girls or maybe 6 girls. 4 girls in the architecture class and 2 girls in the electronics class. Otherwise, all boys. So, in a way, I know they weren't like friends, they're not the people that you hang out with, but that was my social, introduction to Japan, is coming in or going to schools every day and just being surrounded by teenage boys. Oh my goodness, what a dream, right? I'm sure some of you are thinking, oh my God, that would be an ideal dream. Well, let me tell you, you learn a lot. I also had to go to so many different junior high schools. We didn't have elementary school assignments at the time, but we did have to break up and go to other high schools and other junior high schools. And that was cool, because through each school, you're meeting more people. I don't know how many people I met within the first couple of months that I was on jet, but it was a lot. You can also, if you're young, you can go to the nearest or closest universities and hang out there. I had people from Tottori University that would come to my door and just introduce themselves. If you watched my other video about stranger danger, well, it's not really stranger danger, but just some of the experiences I had to go to, it was really hard because anybody that I met was usually from face-to-face encounters, because we didn't have cell phone or social media. And people would just come to my door and introduce themselves, which was, it was a little bit intrusive and frightening, and I did get into some trouble. That's a whole nother video. It's hard making friends when you don't speak the language. And I think that's why some people tend to want to make friends with Japanese people so that they could practice and learn the language. But there's also times when you want to converse with people in your native language. I don't know how long it was, but I was at the Mr. Donuts in Tottori. Hadn't talked in English for I don't know how long, and I saw a man walk in, and I just was like, oh my gosh, it's another foreigner. And I just went up and I said, hello, I'm from Los Angeles, my name is Kim, where are you from? And of course, I can't remember his name or where he's from. He was from the U.S., and he said he was in Tottori on business. And I was like, oh my gosh. And I said, I'm really sorry for sounding just like, a lunatic, but I haven't seen another foreigner, and I haven't spoken English for quite some time. So I'm really sorry. Like, how goofy was that? I wouldn't do that now. But at that time, I was just so desperate, I think, to see someone from another country other than a Japanese person that I could actually communicate with. So, don't feel embarrassed. Don't feel, if you're in the countryside, sometimes you go through those moments, and now, thank goodness you have social media, so you can post, you can blog, you can vlog, you can reach out, and you can join chat groups, and you can just get your, get your English out. Or it's an adjustment, but I will tell you the benefits of this is that you really do become stronger, and you get to learn a lot about yourself. You learn how to empathize, I think, with others because, well, back in Los Angeles, I always went out to like breakfast and lunch by myself. I was going to say dinner, but I don't recall going to dinner by myself. I used to go out to lunch by myself a lot. I used to love going out to breakfast a lot. We used to joke, my other friends that did that, it was like, yeah, people would look at me and probably say, oh my God, that poor girl, she has no friends. And sometimes you think that, right? You think like, oh, okay, if that woman's alone sitting at a bar, she's probably looking to pick someone up. Or, oh, that poor girl, you know, she must be weird, she must be strange. I don't ever make judgments like that, you know, I mean, and I think for some people it is hard to have every single meal by yourself or to do so many things by yourself. To go to a movie alone, to go grocery shopping, I don't think anybody freaks out, but to go to a nice restaurant alone, or to just be walking around town by yourself. You learn to, I don't know, you learn to do things that maybe you wouldn't have done in your home country. Maybe you learn to speak up, or this is going to sound a little bit weird, but maybe you don't complain as much because nobody understands your complaints anyway. You learn to, I guess it's not picking your battles, but I find that I always try to be courteous and polite because I never know if the person that I'm talking to is one of my students' parents, or the bank teller at the bank is my vice principal's daughter or something, you know, like that was just the way I approached everything. So I really think that I learned how to be more patient and more understanding. I think I learned how to express myself a little bit more in the countryside because there wasn't as many opportunities, or there weren't as many people that spoke English or that understood what I was talking about. I'll never forget I was at Daimaru department store because that was the main department store right in front of Totori Station. I don't know if it's still there because I haven't been back to Totori for a while, but I remember I had come to Japan with a whole pack of traveler's checks because that was how you traveled. You got traveler's checks. And no one at the department store knew what a traveler's check was. And I couldn't cash them, which meant I couldn't buy any of the things that I needed to. I had to go to the bank to cash my traveler's checks. It was a pain because, you know, I couldn't make myself understood. I thought it was universal that traveler's checks were accepted everywhere, and they weren't. I didn't have a credit card, I don't think. I don't think I had a credit card because I didn't, I didn't have a credit card. Granted, I'm sure credit cards were taken at most of these places, but yeah, it was just such a different time or era back then. Okay, Bandit, are you ready to come? Okay. Maybe I'll save this for a different video, but dating. Some people find it easier, some people find it harder. I actually found it easier, but in a not so good way, I guess, because I think people were curious. People were, people wanted to get to know you. So no matter where you went, you were always sort of a focus. If you went, of course, to a restaurant or a bar or a pub, immediately everybody knows that you speak English. You must not be from, you know, this area. So people would come and talk to you. And it was nice, but maybe because you're meeting people that really haven't had a lot of outside experiences or international experiences, sometimes you have to deal with things that are not what you want to deal with in dating. You don't want to be seen as an object and someone that people could practice English with, or they're just curious about what a foreigner is like in all aspects, if you get my drift. You even have friends, you meet friends like that, or even your students may make you feel a little bit different or something. So I think if you are going to start dating and you're in the countryside area, or you do decide to bring your significant other for a visit, or I don't know, just know that sometimes it's not always private and you have to kind of be discreet. You learn how to answer questions with vague answers, but answers that people kind of understand. That's kind of another skill that you learn in the countryside, because people will ask you a lot of questions and they don't really, it's not that they're trying to be nosy. Maybe it is with some people, but usually it's just to start a conversation with you. So if they're asking you what are you doing, or where are you going? You don't have to say, oh, I'm going to blah, 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 blah. You can just say, I'm going shopping, or I'm taking a walk. I'm going to look around the area. You don't have to say everything so exact. So, yeah, it may seem to you as people are being really nosy, or it may get on your nerves, but it's mainly, I think, the local people's way of trying to reach out to you. Let's talk about the city. So in the city, of course, it's much, much easier to find services, and you won't always feel like everybody knows where you're going or what you're doing. You can go to the gym. And if you don't want to go to your neighborhood gym, you could go to a gym that's nearby a station, so that you won't run into anybody in your neighborhood. You have a lot more options on places to go to eat, where you can eat by yourself and you don't have to worry about seeing someone. You can go to a cafe and stay there and not worry that somebody's going to see you alone and want to come bother you or something. It's really easy to be anonymous. You can pretty much dress or wear or maybe present yourself a little bit differently than in the countryside, where everybody would recognize you and maybe remember that. It shouldn't be that way, mind you. You should be able to dress and wear whatever you want, but let's say if you are kind of concerned about what your school is thinking about you, or you don't want to create any rumors or gossip, then, right, I think usually in the countryside, maybe you're dressing a little bit more casually and you can get away with it. But maybe if you're in your office, maybe you can't dress as casually. I think if you're in a big city, you're not going to stand out too much, especially with the way things are nowadays. If you have a certain color hair, or if you have facial hair, if you have tattoos, if you're wearing like all those things that they tell you online, like don't wear this, don't wear sunglasses, oh, don't show your tattoos, all of that. I do think it's not as big of a deal as sometimes people online make it to be. I think, it's a part of you. In the city, you'll look around, you'll see tourists, you'll see Japanese people, you'll see everybody wearing all different kinds of items, skirts that are short. Sometimes you'll see more than you want to see, but it's not that big of a deal. In the countryside, you'll see the same things, but maybe because there's less people, or because in your neighborhood it's it's less people, maybe you will stand out. But I don't think anyone's going to say anything like, oh, don't wear that, don't wear that. It's how comfortable you are with yourself. If you're comfortable with yourself and the way you look, wear what you feel you want to wear, is my advice. It may not be everybody's advice, but that's my advice. There will be people who will talk about you no matter what you do. There will be people that say, because I'm 65, I shouldn't wear this. I shouldn't do this. I shouldn't look like this. I don't care. And I don't think you should either. And especially those of you that are just in your 20s, wear what you feel comfortable in. But that being said, if for some reason you feel uncomfortable, or you think, ooh, I probably shouldn't wear this. If you have those kind of feelings, then maybe do follow some of the advice that other people give. Those are things I think you learn about yourself when you're in a foreign country. When you're in a foreign country, there's always the people that will say, do as the Romans do. And then there are people like me that say, always be different. Find what works best for you. But I just think in the city, people don't care. People, they don't really are paying attention to what you're wearing. They're more likely paying attention to what they're wearing, is my feeling. Let's go to the friendship factor. Now, this can go both ways, because I've heard both sides of the story. I've heard people say that it's really easy to make friends in the city because you can always go to more places, you can do a lot more parties and stuff. And now, right, I'm sure there's a lot more people online doing apps, different dating apps, and most of those people probably live in the city. There's a lot of more chances maybe to meet someone at a gym or wherever. You just have a lot more opportunities in some respects, because obviously you can go to a club where people might be looking for other people to date, but at the same time, and I'm going to generalize here, a lot of people that have the money probably don't always have the time to go on traditional types of dates that maybe in the countryside you would go on. Let me kind of give you an example. You're going to think, oh my God, Kim, you're so lame. But most of the dates that I guess I went on were activity oriented, which is what I personally like. Or they were night oriented, where it's just eating or dining or, going out. Not to a club, because Totori didn't really have any clubs. I think we had 3 discos. I think some people have complained that because people are so busy in the city, it's hard to get schedules to meet, or you have to make schedules with your friends to go out and meet up for dinner or drink or do something. And just because you live in Tokyo, it doesn't mean that you'll be living really close to your friends. For example, in the countryside, your friends are probably within the same vicinity. So, it doesn't take that long to get together. In Tokyo, you could be living in this section of Tokyo, and then your friend might live in this section of Tokyo. So it still takes a really long time, or you do have to catch a lot of trains to meet up together. just because you live in the city, it doesn't mean that you're going to see your friends more often, but you will have probably more opportunities and places where you can meet up for dinner or after work. Some people do feel that they're more lonely in the big city because of this aspect. And yeah, I kind of almost have to agree, because even though I know a lot of people in the area and it's easy to perhaps meet up, I don't think I meet up as often as I did when I was living in Totori. I think most of my friends all come from the places I've worked. So a lot of times it's easier to go out to dinner with someone that you work with and you're just finishing up at the same time. Or it's easier to make plans because you see them all the time. I don't know. Once again, this is totally dependent on your own personal ideas or how you determine friendships and what you like to do with your friends. So with all of that, I think there are pros and cons for both in the city and the country side regarding privacy and loneliness. I think no matter where you go, especially if you're in a foreign country, you are going to experience loneliness, or you are going to feel like maybe things are not as private as they were in your home country, where maybe you could either hide things better or people maybe just didn't care about what you did as much. For me, when I was younger, and by younger I mean when I came on jet and I was 29 and stayed in Totori for 13 years, I loved the countryside. I loved being surrounded by nature and traditions and festivals and all that kind of stuff. But when I needed to escape, I would go to the city. I would go take a train to Osaka, or I would travel and go somewhere. I spent a lot of my money, I guess, traveling, not only just within Japan, but going to places that were close by. Like, I went to Guam almost every winter holiday, if it was too expensive to go back home to the U.S. Now that I'm older, I would say I really see the value and the convenience for me personally of living in the city. I like all the choices I have. I like that there's like 3 shopping malls, boom, right in this one area, and I never get tired of finding a place to eat. I like being able to do takeout and just go pick up something. Having doctors of all different backgrounds and locations is really nice. Having people that I can ask for help, or even like the connections and resources I've made through my school, makes my life here very comfortable and easy. I live right off of the Tomei Expressway, so I can get on and off the Tomei Expressway within 5 minutes. I like being near a station that is, compared to all other stations, it's really small. But being the starting point for the Blue Line subway and having express trains that go from my station into Tokyo is really convenient. I think if anything happened, heaven forbid if it did, but should I need to rely on public transportation for either going to the veterinarian with Bandit or me having to take care of a doctor's appointment, it's convenient. Sure, I'll have to pay a little bit more, and I won't have the convenience of being able to drive, but I like having the accessibility that I do here in Yokohama. I know if there's an emergency, I can get to the airport right away. I was going to say that I'm glad I had a hospital here that I feel very comfortable with, but actually, when I was in Totori and I had to undergo hospital stays, no problems. And actually, I did go every year for checkups, and I felt very comfortable with the medical care there. Actually, in every place that I've went. So I kind of think for you personally, you have to think about what do you need at your specific age or the ages that you plan to stay in Japan. What are the things that you must have or things that you cannot comfortably live without? What point are you at in your life? Are you looking to date and meet people that you could potentially see yourself settling down with? Are you comfortable being by yourself? Are you looking for a job or an area where you could work till you retire? Or do you see yourself as maybe being more transient and moving around from area to area before you decide where you eventually want to settle down? Do you plan on doing a lot of traveling? Do you plan on visiting your home country a lot? Will you need to save up money to either pay off student loans or other kinds of loans, or to finance all the trips that you're intending to take? You know, those are all questions I think you have to ask yourself before you decide which is actually better for you, the city or the country. Or maybe you'll be like me and see where life takes you and decide as you go along, which is kind of what I'm doing. But I can't complain. I can't complain. So I hope this helped a little bit with giving you an idea of some of the things that I think you should consider about country life versus city life. You might not have a choice. You might be placed in an area that you didn't request, but perhaps if you could take some of the things that I've talked about and maybe put them into your perspective, it will help you figure out a plan on how to move forward or how to adjust with any challenges that you're having. As always, I'm always here if you have any questions or things that you'd like me to address a little bit more deeply. Please feel free to write them in the comments. If you are someone that has experienced different pluses or minuses living in either the city or the country, please feel free to include those in the comments as well. I really enjoy reading your comments, and I like what you bring as far as interaction goes to help me learn just as much about myself, my lifestyle, and this channel, because of course this channel is not only for myself to kind of remember things that I've been through in my life, it's also for those of you that may need a little bit of a shoulder to cry on or a venting place, or listen to someone that's made every single mistake in the book that can possibly help prevent you from making those same mistakes. All right. Thanks again so much, and I will hopefully see you in the next video. Bye-bye.